Guys, going to be doing some talking about tackle in the tackle shack tonight. But first, Mike goes pike fishing. Doesn't catch a pike. Thinks I'll try and catch a trout. I'll go fly fishing. He goes fly fishing, and what does he catch?
What are the chances of that?
That is ridiculous.
You couldn't do that if you tried. I mean, that is just weird, right? Healthy. Good that there's small pike in there. I'll get your forceps. So.
No, I can do it with a finger.
Okay.
Well, luckily for Mike, after that little baby one, he got another one on a rubber shaddy type lure thing. I think it was a sidewinder. A little bit bigger as well, so that was interesting. He's out there swimming around.
I need forceps, but we'll get him in.
Yeah, lift him up. That's a mess.
Yep.
Alright. He's going to go straight away. Cold water.
Yeah.
And of course I had to get in on the act somewhere. I can't let him beat me. He's got one on fly, one on lure. At least I got one on a lure. Yeah. And it was bigger. I might not let him. What is it?
It's a pike, it's a pike. Oh, it's a nice one. Pike of the day, Dad. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, watch you don't spit it. Do you want on the net? We've got a net here.
You might jump in a minute. Let me just turn around a bit. That's the old.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, that's a nice
Well, he nailed that lure really, really hard.
Look at the markings on
At
that.
distance as well. Wow!
You didn't need much recovery.
So here we go. Couple of pike there. Just a little bit of fun. Just kept the clips back. Thought they might be of interest. I'm going to take you into the tackle shack, but first I've got a bit of work to do. I haven't been in there for a while. See you in there. Well, a bit of a sweep up required. I haven't been in the tackle shack for ages. Not to use it. I want to talk to you guys about some oddball stuff that might be of interest. It might not be for fishing, but it's one of those days where it's really pretty cold. Whoa. It's cold outside. You know, it's not. It's not like freezing cold. It's just that damp which we get in Britain. A damp cold goes right through your bones. So I'm going to have to look at the old G stove. I've got to get the temperature up in here. I've got a bit of company up there. I think I'll get the broom and knock the spiders down. So, and maybe have a spray up later on. They'll love it when I put the heat on, because me and Mike, we did a film on a bunker. It's on his channel, an old World War II bunker. When we had a cook up in there, I cannot tell you the beetles and bugs that just came out of the ceiling, all like this, just dropping down. It was really freaky. I didn't like it. It was a bit spooky. I've got to get this warmed up first. Right. I've got a cap on the funnel of the G stove to stop rain getting in there, and I'm hoping it's not wet inside. I've had that problem before. The rain dries up over there, goes down the pipe inside, just sits there. Just under here. Take the grill out. I'll try to do the grill. Separate the. I think I'm going to have a. Yeah, I don't know if I need a sweep out there or not. I think I'll probably be alright to go on that. It's dry in there, that's the main thing. I don't need the water container. Wow, it's dusty and freaky in here. Let's check in the oven. No, there's no moisture in there. I think the next thing to do is take the cap off the chimney. Well, for those of you who don't know, maybe new to the channel, this is called the Tackle Shack, which is named by the Awesome Army viewers. And it was Mike's old surf shack, and I built it out of packing crates, engineering packing crates that were shipped in. And that next door neighbour said, I'm going to dump all this wood, Graeme, do you want it? And I built it all, clad it on the outside, and then it just fell into disrepair totally. And it was Mike's suggestion that to make something of it. What do you make, like a filming studio? And that's what I've done. So for those who want to see how I did it, right down to the wallpapering, building, everything is, and the transfer, how I made the table, the chairs, all out of, well, not even recycled pallet wood, just straight pallet wood. Fitted the stove and everything. If you want to see that, see if Mike can put in a link, say, there's a gap where that white is. Might put a link there, anybody wants to watch it, see if you can find it. Saves going through the playlist of 960 films. Now, bear with me because I haven't been in here for yonks, I really haven't, because I don't use it. I use this in the winter to do my tackle talks and stuff like that. People who've been with us a long time, they know it, they recognise all the fishy stuff in here. And obviously once I get the old G-stove going, it's a whole different world. It's my little bolt hole. So I'm very fortunate that I've got several little bolt holes, like the workshop, the garage, the shed round the back, the roundhouse, the pallet cabin, the tackle shack that I can sneak into. Now this one's not off grid, this is on grid because I had cable put in here, in fact I put it in myself, and then wired in a light. So I've got a light, I've got a 3-pin plug there, got an extension lead, so I can do what I want in there. But basically, because I get timber and wood left over, I can get this G-stove going, it warms up in it. Guys, bear with me, I've got to have a sweep, a tidy up, and yes, a de-spider. Yuck. Well, you won't see me doing this on New Year's Day. You never sweep anything or clean anything on New Year's Day because old saying was, my love, you will sweep your luck out of the door for the rest of the year. So if you're doing anything like this, make sure you do it before New Year's, well, Day or after. So people have asked me before, where do you get those ultralight bobbins that you use when you're margin fishing? And all they are, I've mentioned it before, people don't know exactly what they look like. I'll show you some I've had. These are black ones, and it's just the spine off a notebook, except a big type of file notebook. Sometimes they're in wire, and you could use a wire one, I suppose, if you wanted to snip them with tin snips. These are just plastic, so they're ultralight, or you can get them in white. Obviously I use white quite a lot, as you can see there. Oh, they're all snipped out there. So what you do is this, you just get a pair of scissors and you can cut them however you want. You can cut them, well, there is actually two ways of doing it, highly technical. Obviously just trim the edge off that one just for now to neaten it up. Now you can cut them, if you want them really light, with the scissors close to the edge of the circular piece, right? And that's a sort of standard one I use. It's like that, then you just open it up, pop it over the fishing line like that, and it goes up and down with the bite. If it's really windy, what you can do is you can take them and you can cut, touching the next one up. I'll show you. I want to cut my fingers, it's difficult. Obviously I can cut with a pair of scissors, but it's difficult filming as well. Like that. So that one, if you look, has a little edge to it either side. So onto that I can pinch, say a BB shot. If it's really windy I can put a treble A shot. Just get your forceps and close them, or if you want to visit to the dentist, try your teeth. So the same thing, you just spring it over your line. I put it between the first and second ring rather than between the reel and the butt ring, because it, you know, it can go back down on the reel and it goes flying around. Generally just grab it when I hook the fish up and just goes like this, you know, pop, it just pops off. So you use a black one if you've got a very shiny background, or most of the time it's sort of dark. As you can see, I've got loads off there and I've got more. I use the white ones. So those are my ultralight bobbins for margin fishing. Now, should it be windy, all you do is get a piece of coat hanger wire, and make your own, what we used to call monkey climbers, don't seem to see them now. So you pull your bobbin down, you know, down on the line, push a piece of wire in there. It doesn't have to be coat hanger wire, but coat hangers are generally free, so I like using them. And it just rests, look, almost use that piece of scissor. It's a piece of wire, sticks up, you know, like this here, and you want it pointing to your butt ring, so you slide it over like this, so that when it goes up, it goes towards the butt ring. If that makes sense, you get no resistance on it, the line of least resistance. And of course if it's windy, it blows around, it won't, will it? It won't, because it's on that piece of wire. And you can put it up or you can put it down. If you do put a piece of coat hanger wire there, I would generally put a larger weight shot on there, which you're going to need if it's windy anyway, and that will absolutely hold it down and give you more of a drop back bite as well. So there you go. That's how I make my ultralight margin fishing bobbins. Free! Next job. Now recently over in Ireland, I was doing what I call deep trolling. People don't really do it. Generally if you go pollock fishing in a boat, the boat's drifting along like this, and you're dropping your lure down, winding it up, drop down, wind up like this. As the boat's going along, you're going up and down, covering ground like that. But with deep trolling, you can actually keep the lure in what I call the kill zone depth, once you find, you know, where the fish are. And you can do that using an echo sounder, but we used to use just what we would call planer boards years ago for pollock fishing, and when I did a lot of salmon fishing over in British Columbia. It was on the west coast of Vancouver Island, a place called Bamfield. We used to go out in the ocean there, and some of the inlets as well, and troll for salmon, and you had to get down. You would use downrigger weights and balls for that, you know, to take the lure down, or you could use planers. And we used to use these years ago. This one's sort of a collector's piece, this one. Okay, so it looks like this. What I do is I'll pull that camera in and I'll show you how it works. So this, how can I describe it? This is about 1960s, okay, so it's a plastic or a nylon, if you want, a planer. So what the planer does is up here is the boat going along, and up here the other way is the fish coming, you know, towards you like this. So you're going to be pulling this through the water, okay, as you motor the boat along slowly. This could be pollock as well. You motor it along slowly. This will bite because it's got a weight there. You see, look, if I just let go of this end, it just drops. So you see the weight there, makes it sink. So it digs. So that's digging along like this. That will send it down in the water like this, deeper, 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 pulling your lure at the back here. Now I'll just put a piece of fishing line on there just to show you. You could put another snap swivel on here if you wanted, so you could snap and change different hook lengths and different lengths of leader. But I'm just going to say, for argument's sake, pollock fishing inshore, you want to go around the reefs, the sort of cliff edges, the deeper water for pollock, just reef pollock. A planer board like this would, you know, definitely, I feel, get you more fish. So you have along here, I'm going to suggest 6, 8, 10 feet of mono. Now you can have it as long as you want, but I would think a minimum to take it away from this plastic, because that's going to go past the fish first, probably say about 8 feet, something like that. Then you have your lure at the end. So this comes through first. Here we go. There's a lure here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Lure's going through the water like this. So you think, well, that looks a bit East Robinson there, but it's not. It's been thought out. It's got just up here, which looks like a broken or half swivel. Wrong. It's there for a job. You've got a release snap here should you want to take it and change it. But you've got those jaws there. If you can see them, I can spring them. I can actually move them like that. And they've got a little depression on the inside of the jaws there. So this just pops into there. Click, did you hear the click? Okay, so there's my angle for pulling down. That gives me the steeper angle, the weight and the jaws. Drop it down, set it to whatever depth you want. Obviously you have to choose the depth you want, okay? So you set your rod with a reel drag quite tight because you're pulling this along. Your lure is back here somewhere, so it's swimming along. When the fish grabs the lure back here, this happens. If you listen, it breaks free from those jaws. Then you can plane it up, fight the fish and plane it up like this. But also, it's got, I don't know, you'll see that there, it's got a screw there, so that can open or close those jaws, you know, just by turning the screw, quarter turn at a go, to give you however much release pressure you want in there. That's probably as much as I want anyway for, well, probably used the last time I used it pollock fishing. That was down, I think it was off the around the Manacles Reef for pollock. We had some pollock. We used to go out in a private boat from St Anthony's Bay there, just go around the Nair Head and then straight out to the Manacles and troll up and down where everybody goes for bass. Everybody knows it's just out there, it's not a secret, just the bass spot in that bit of a race on an ebb. So there you go, there's the jaws. I can set that tight or I can set it loose depending on what size fish you're looking for and depending obviously, you know, basically how much tension do you want to set the hook before this trips, and only fight it with the fish is on there like this, click. You've got the option there. However, there is an option to using this planer, and that's using a lead, again, which we used to use salmon trolling out in BC on the west coast of Vancouver. I used to use that, and it takes the weight down. It's a lead one, but it's the same principle of tripping out like this. See? But this one also slides down. So this one is a salmon trolling leg, which we used to use on the west coast of Vancouver Island when I used to go over there. Again, deep trolling with, well, you might see it, one of these, a flasher and a lure and a downrigger. I'll explain those in another film. For big salmon, for Chinooks, king, same thing, the really big ones, and also springs, well, all the different species, pinks, humpback, sockeye, chum, all those different species of salmon used to be really good. But you have to get down. They're not on the surface, you've got to get down for them. Sometimes 60 feet, 80 feet, 100 feet sometimes. Now, this lead can't tell you how deep to put it. You run on the echo sounder then, because we're sea fishing. But the same principle is you can use this, and I have used this down off the Lizard Peninsula or Falmouth in the UK for pollock. And it would work well for bass as well, this one, because it's just a deep troller. I'll bring the camera in close and I'll show you how it works. So this one doesn't tie onto the liners itself, as does the planer. You know, in other words, you don't need to tie one end of your reel line to here and your trace or hook length to the other one. This one you can just set it on the actual main fishing line and put your lure at the end. This will tow it down. So what you've got there, if I can, you might be able to see it, is a piece of wire, it's a brass wire, a loop, and then another one there. So you thread your line right through it, or you can sometimes just bend it up with your nail and you'll just pop it under, like I've just done there. So you would make a loop, put it over the end, boom, it's on. Now, there's two of those, one there, one here. That enables it, look, to slide up and down the line. So you'd have your trace, if you wanted a trace, and a swivel. You could set that if you wanted, say you wanted, this happens to be 50-pound line, and then you might want a 20-pound trace. Obviously, you're going to, at the back of this, need a barrel swivel to put your trace on. So you go light to heavy. I'm just doing this for pollock fishing. I probably wouldn't bother. I would probably put this on 30 pound straight through. But what it has got just here is, I'm going to call it like a split ring. Can you see that there? You might not be able to see it. That's fixed into the lead. So you would set the length of trace you want, say 6, 8, 10 feet, whatever you want, and then you would pinch it just through here. I'm hoping this will, I haven't got my readers on. Hang on. There. Okay, that's locked. That now, look, if I hold it that way, it can't slide up and down, can it? But when you pull it along, the same principle applies. It goes down, down, down. It tows your lure to whatever depth you want it at. The fish will be coming along from this direction, up here, like that. It's going to trip out there. It's going to pull tight. When it pulls tight, hear that click? That little click has freed it from this little spring here. You know, it's like a key ring, if you like. Now look, it can slide back up and down. Now this can either slide right back down to the fish, which I personally don't like because it's on the lure and the fish has got something heavy to shake against in front of it where the hook hold is. You know, it might shake and flip and the weight of this lead pops a hook out. So my recommendation is to still use a trace, a 6 or 8 feet, then this will slide down and stop against the swivel. So you can have a lure here. Right, let me pull that camera back and I'll be able to explain it better. I would have a lure up here, anything from 6 to 12 feet for pollock and bass, a barrel swivel, and then my reel line. I would put this wherever I want. It doesn't have to be just in front of the swivel. You can put it 50 feet up if you wanted, because it's still going to tow down and sit as the boat's trolling it along 50 feet. So it's up to you to set the depth. But as you're going along like this, it's pulling it along like this. The fish grabs up here, up this end, clicks it free, there's the click. This then, as you fight the fish, I'll extenuate it. As you're fighting the fish, this lead, look, travels all the way down to that barrel swivel. Then you've got 6 or 8 feet to the fish. So if the fish is whiplashing its head around and thrashing, it's got a bit of give in this line here. It's not got the lead directly, you know, in front of its jaws. You can flick that hook out. 2 methods of deep trolling a lure. Hear that click? That enables that lead to slide up and down to the swivel. This would be ideal as well if you were fishing for ferox, which is the deep water brown trout. Up in the big lochs of Scotland, you can get down really deep with this. So there you go. I just thought it'd be something different. A planer and a deep trolling lead. What's next? I'm cooking in here. I've actually got the other door open, it's so long. So years ago, when we used to do a lot of big bait, ledger dead baits for pike in gravel pits. I don't do it now, I can't set that gravel pit, does my head in. But we used to do some quite long sessions fishing for winter gravel pit pike. We used to inject them with oil. Now you can get syringes, or I've still got syringes like this, and you get the needles with them. I haven't got the needles on there. But all the tip I'm giving you is you would open it up, you would put whatever smell additive or scent additive you want in there. In our case it used to be cod liver oil. Then you would inject it, but you want to make sure you get quite a wide needle, because in the winter, I'm going to say, the viscosity of the oil changes considerably and goes, let's say, sticky. So with a fine needle, it's hard to push out when it's really freezing cold. It won't happen with me, because I ain't going out in the freezing cold anymore. I've done all that. Or the other way I used to cheat with it is just pop a little needle hole or cut a little hole inside the dead bait, let's say mackerel or herring, take the needle off and just gently squirt in the oil in there. Now if you want to do that for sea fishing, we used to get what we used to call a bladder syringe. Oh my God, that's a syringe. That is a syringe if ever there was. Look at the size. Look at the size of it. It's going to take about half a litre of whatever. So that one we could do for sea fishing and push more oil into the bait, okay? Another tip we used to use was where we get, this is going back 50 years, man, 55 years. We used to put an emulsifying agent in there to try and just soften up the oil for the winter as well, just so it lubricates through this plunger. And the other thing is when you go home at night, any excess oil you need to flush out and wash with warm soapy water. That's what we used to do years ago. So there you go guys, you can tell the difference in the 2 sizes there. and occasionally I still we used to, I'll tell you another tip, my God, the tips are coming, I'm going to go and have to lay down in a minute. The other thing we used to do for biggish perch, before all the rage about drop shotting, it was worms, it was ledgered worms. Occasionally, in the late autumn, the leaves would be too heavy on the bottom, and we all felt the worm would drop in amongst the leaves and the perch wouldn't find them. So we'd fish a little short trace with an Arsley bomb here, running ledger, hook length, and then the worm hook here, and get a little bit of air in there, not necessarily oil or anything, and just pop a little bit of air inside the worm, and it would come up, stay alive, and still be wriggling up here. That is a really, really good tip if you want to catch perch, possibly other fish as well, but we were concentrating on perch, is to pop a little bit of air into the worm, not a lot, just enough to make it float up. You could try it in a pond if you wanted, and you could maybe suspend it above those leaves, 6 to 8 inches, something like that, 10 inches, and it used to be really good for perch. On to the beach fishermen. With fixed balls, we used to use these. If you're casting really hard, your index finger, if you didn't put a leather stall, finger stall, which is for, let's say you've got a bad cut on your finger, you bandage it, you don't want to clip it and bang it, you go into the chemist and you would get a finger stall that wraps around the back of your wrist. Guys still do use them fixed ball fishing, especially casting with braid. They're fine, but you used to get a little gizmo like this, which you could whip onto above the line, a fixed ball, put the line round there, and then as you cast out it would whip round automatically, and you could put a lot more power into it because you're not worried about cutting your finger effectively. So there they go. As you can see, it's a ball that swivels either side of 90 degrees, which makes ideal if you're left-handed or right-handed. You just whip it onto above your reel seat, and you can use that for casting. I have no idea whether they make them anymore. I just thought it would be something of interest to show you guys. This will be whipped onto the rod blank like that, you know. Now, talking of winch fittings, I stumbled across, I thought, wow, they used to be all the rage, these things. I don't even know if they still make them. And that was these things, which we used to call coasters. Do you know, I don't know why we called them coasters, but they are for beach fishing. But you can use them for any fishing, but we use them for beach fishing there. And the principle is, obviously, they slide over your rod blank, like voila, on my finger is the rod, and then you would screw this down and the reel would be in there and it would clamp the reel on as well. Now, years ago, you don't get it so much now, people will be doing back casting, or they would want the multiplier reel on the bottom of the rod because they do different types of pendulum casting. So, as a rough guide, you can get a fixed glued-on winch fitting, because listen, years ago guys, we built all our rods, we used to build them all ourselves from kits. You can get a glued-on, that's glued on the blank, it's set, and obviously your reel goes on there. As a general rule, I'm saying a general rule, whatever size of person you are, it doesn't matter how tall you are, some people are going to have long arms, shorter arms, there's no real standard. We used to measure it, the standard, we'll put the rod butt under your armpit, extend it to there, the length of where your thumb would go on a multiplier reel, generally, and that would be where you would cast from. So you would glue it on there, and you would cast power on the right hand, pull down the left hand to load up the rod and spring the rod. So that's just a regular screw winch fitting, but anybody who wants to go building their own rods, the average standard would be rod butt under the armpit and just there. Don't overstretch, because that way, if you do put it too far up, when you come around on the cast, you're going to be catching your body, you know. That's the idea of having it just there so that it can go through. I hope you're taking notes. Smith, are you taking notes on this? Keep that fire going. The other one we used to use was this one. These are all rods I used, you know, these are all ones I used. Is a sliding winch fitting, but that one is whipped on, you see, rather than glued. So the glued on one will be a right pain in the you-know-where trying to get it off, because if you try and heat that as you would do a tip ring to get an, you know, like arrow dry, to soften the tip ring over, say, a gas burner to take it off and change it, when you do it with a winch fitting, you could mess up the glass underneath the actual blank itself. So you really, once they're glued on, they're glued on. This way, if you can see that there, is whipped on. So you can glue it on. I've got actually whipped on with fishing line, and then I put some electrical tape over the top of it. My reel goes in there, and you can use that fixed ball, or you can use it on the top of the rod, snap it on there for multiplier fishing. Same principle. If you look, it's measured for me just under my armpit, a little bit shorter this one because it's a bass rod, and you know, I want to perhaps do spinning with it as well, so I might not want to be huge casting. So that's a different one. The coasters, and I'm not making it up because here is a dual butt rod for my Coniflex 2600. I use a standard butt, which is, I'm going to call it glass and carbon mix, which is a bit more forgiving, or if you're doing big time pendulum casting, you have an aluminium or dual butt, which is rigid. Now if you look there, I've had that one fitted with the sliding coasters, or coast locks, I don't know what they call them, to be honest, we just call them coasters. Those would screw, you could screw the reel on there, you screw the reel on, so you could multiply fish, you could put your finger on for fixed ball fishing as well, but more important, rather than just casting like this direction, the guys that do real big distance, they want to put the reel at the bottom of the rod, because they can do either back casting with a fixed ball, which is going backwards over it, you don't see it much nowadays, or they'll be casting with a multiplier here at the bottom of the rod, and then what they do is a bit short to put it here to wind in. A lot of the top guys use an extender. When I say top guys, you know, they're not all top guys, they're just guys that know perhaps pendulum casting a bit more than Joe average. So you get an extension there so that you can reel in a bit easier and put it up against your body there. So that's the sliding coasters. Just all stuff that we had years ago and did use, because that's actually on the rod. And if I want to change those, or one bus, I've got a rubber butt there, you know, cap that I can take off. What else we got we can play with? Oh yeah, I thought this might be interesting for you. Getting closer. Right, I've been and had a cup of tea, had a walk with the wife. It's dark outside, you wouldn't believe it, but the light's pretty good in here, so I'm pleased I got that sorted out. Okay, tackle box, just a regular little tackle box. It's from my salmon fishing days in British Columbia. But in here there are two things really that I think is well worth looking at, because as you guys know, I like doing touch ledgering, free lining, especially for barbel, river fishing. So there's two different types of weights here. I'll show you what I mean. And when I say two different types of weights, I actually mean three. And I've got some, basically they're pop-up beads, they call corkies over in BC, for popping the lure up off the bottom when you're bumping it around. And also got these things called, I've got to try these for perch actually. It's like a spinner blade, like a little buzz bait you can see there. And you put that and put a bead at the back, small bead, and it spins just above your fly or wool lure. That's the wool that we used. That was chartreuse. That was the colour I was last catching on, as you gathered. I'll tell you what I've got there. Got some elasticated thread. I didn't know I had that. Okay, three different weights here. So with the salmon fishing, you're bumping around gravel, and it's you know, you don't want it snagging. So a couple of methods I use here is they get a lead, a weight here, as you can see, that is long and narrow, okay, so it won't jam in anything. And then they put that on the line. In fact, I'm going to use a bit of this fishing line, just like this, with a piece of valve rubber, just for casting. So they slide that through there. Look, your hook is up this end, it's out of the camera shot. Just going to wet this. Lead tastes lovely. And then when it comes good on there, and that will pinch on like that, just roll it, roll it, roll it. Oh, it's quite hard to get on, but that's the general idea of it. So there you go. That's rolling and bumping across the gravel, you know, like this, like that. It's bumping everywhere, and it's not tangling. It's not going to jam in a rock. There's less chance because it's long and narrow. So there's a different type of weight for you. Forget the swivel. That one, you know, it's just got a swivel on it. But generally, it's any strip of lead, and then you just have a pair of cutters. You can cut that to what weight you want, but it's held on with a piece of valve rubber tube there onto your line. So just pull that out. That's one. These ones are really, really good for bumping on fast gravel runs for big salmon. Well, look, not big salmon, just bumping when you want to snag on the bottom. It's a ball lead weight there, but it's got a swivel embedded in the ring there. Can you see that? I put it like this. The swivel is in there, and this one has a swivel with a little clip like a snap link on the end of it. Just there. Hopefully you can see that there. But these bump around on the gravel and they just don't snag, so I feel they could be really, really good using those for... these ones actually had, you can see there, I'll peel it off, some rubber around the outside of it. But that size there, absolutely plumb for barbel. And it will roll around, as you cast it's rolling, look, it just rolls on the swivel. So if you have snags like my fingers there, bump, 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 it goes all through the snags, it rolls up and down any, you know, bits of rock or anything like that, they don't snag much. The other one is called a slink, which is a shop bought one, and it comes, as you can see it there. I've been using this one because that would be fixed. We would probably want it to run ledger, but this one was fixed. So it's got the clip there to take on and off with a little hole in the slink just there. I mean, you can see that maybe about there, like a little link swivel. And you'd obviously, on that, you'd have one end there going to your fishing rod, one end going to your hook and your trace. But it's a sort of a canvas tube of shot, and it's pinched at the back there. I'm assuming, let's say that's sort of nylon, that's been heated, I reckon, and fused together. Then that's filled with shot, or whatever shape they are, I don't know whether they're round leads or not. Fused again, and then a hole made through the end of that. But look, it is absolutely like a snake, and that's why it's called a slink, because it goes over all the snags, the bumps, the boulders, everything. It rarely snags. Now that's something that could be used for people fishing, let's say, barbel in the river or chub in snaggy areas, let's say up on the River Wye where they get some real boulder strewn places. You could use one like that. And then maybe, yes, you buy these in the tackle shops in British Columbia, it's just a regular, that's their tackle shop go-to. I guess you could look online, or indeed some of you guys might come up with an idea of making a little nylon sleeve, fusing the end with, say, a cigarette lighter, and that's obviously been pinched, say with a pair of pliers while it sets. Put some shot in there, pinch the other end, put a little hole in it, and put a swivel through. And that could be the salvation for losing all that gear on that River Wye. Great fishing, unfortunately some spots are pretty snaggy. Good tips, I thought. Right. Now, recently I've been, say, squid fishing and generally lure fishing using small, I guess the generation now might call them starlights. They were Siloam light sticks that used to be made by a company called American Cyanamid, who knows, 50 years ago or whatever. So you've probably seen the American police use them a lot. I don't know whether our guys do, military people use them as well. And they're a light stick like this. So I'll bring the camera in again and we'll take a look at them. Now they come in really small sizes, you know, like this, which I've used and I've had on the top of floats, or you can get a 6-inch one. This happens to be a red one because I used to use those for deep dropping for swordfish, because red was the colour of a spawning squid when we were using squid bait and deep dropping. I have dropped them very deep for 6 gill sharks, 600-700 metres, and I've had them burst. Now, I'm not going to take this one out the packet, but basically I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them, is that they're a plastic file inside of which is another file of 2 different chemicals. And what you do is you snap them. I think some places call them snap bites. You snap them, shake them all together, mix the 2 liquids, and they make a light. Generally the brightest one is a green. I also have blue, yellow and red in various sizes. Now what they do come with are these things which you might not have seen before. Military or police personnel probably have, and this one. So these ones are metallic. So it's a wire loop, 4 magnets fixed in the bottom there, and then what you could do, you don't have to use that magnetic, but you can put those on the ground and you put your light stick in them like this. So if you were, let's say, carp fishing, or if you were night fishing and you weren't bothered about having a regular light, because being 2 liquids, there's no flame. You can put these inside a bivvy, or inside, you know, your camping area, and it lights everything up. The thing is, you can't turn it off, can you? It's on. They generally run 4 to 6 hours. As a general rule, when we used to use them in the tropics when we're fishing, and I've used them for marlin as well, put them in the head of the trolling lures, the small ones, is 4 to 6 hours. They can go longer in a warmer country. In a cold area, cold countries, they don't last as long. So, you know, the warmer they are, the longer they will last. The benefit is, all of these, including the small ones, being liquids, the 2 liquids, if you only used it for, like, argument's sake, tonight, it's pitch black at 4 o'clock, it's winter in the UK, I might want to go fishing till 8 in the dark. Great, I can use one for 4 hours, don't throw it away or dispose of it, bring it back, put it in the fridge, you can use it the next day. Better still, put it in the freezer and you can keep it for a long time because the liquids are frozen. So that's the general idea of those. However, they've also got a lapel holder here. They've also got this one, which is a sort of personnel one. So it's got the clip there, so you can clip it onto yourself, wherever, you jack it like that. Put your light stick inside it, but it's got just a pull here. As you can see, there's a slot and there's a pull section. So it can be closed like that if, let's say, you don't want to be seen, or let's say you're fishing near a lake and you're margin fishing and then you hook a fish and you think, oh, I want some light. Well, then you just pull that, and if you look at the slot there, you can see that piece opens up, so you only get the light going in whichever direction you want. You've got enough light there to say bait up or something like that, or indeed unhook a fish, weigh a fish, something like that. So that's another one that gives you an idea. And it's got a little section there that you can snap onto things. I haven't got anything to snap on, but it obviously goes click onto, you know, anything to stick, a bush, you know, if you're working, or indeed you're fishing an area where you've got some branches around, you can click it onto the branch like that. And then when you finish with it, all you do, just close it off and it's pitch black. No one's going to see you, you're not going to spook any fish, but that way you can just open up, instant light, it's all safe, you know, it's all in this plastic file there. So that's just something different, you know, I just figured it's something different for you guys to look at. One final thing, it's old school, they're not used now, thank goodness, but I found a use for them, or my wife did. Hard to believe that we used to use these things years ago, but they were just the norm, old school stuff. They were called a pike gag. It was a stretch and a spring that opened the pike's jaws to allow you to get the hooks out, basically, if people were nervous of the pike's teeth. We don't use them now, I'm showing you, I just happen to have one left over. So there it is, it's a pike gag, and it used to have 2 prongs on it. When you think about it, it's pretty bad. 2 prongs that would jam into the pike's jaw like this. There's the pike's jaw, jam into the jaws, right? Open it up and stretch it up like that, so you could get in, take the hooks out. Then they came up with the idea of, oh, we don't like those points on those pike gags, so they made them with little balls on the end, which must have saved the pike some form of discomfort, I guess. But do you know what I found? I was calling out for the wife through the house. Oi! No, I was, why are you so quiet in there? Well, when she's quiet, I think, that might not be a good sign, a bit like kids, isn't it, really? What's she up to? Didn't answer. Then I find, as I sneak in, she's using these. Can you believe that? You know what she's using it on? It's appalling, I was shocked. She's only got my wallet, and she's trying to open the wallet like that, just to get in there. So there you go. It's a new Graeme Pullen wallet opening device that can only be used by my wife very, very occasionally. She won't be using it again because she was terrified. There were so many moths that came out of it. People, thanks for watching the Totally Awesome Fishing Show here in the Tackle Shack. It's glad to have you back in there again. I appreciate you watching. I just thought there might be some little items of interest, and of course it might give some of you out there, oh, I could adapt that, I could change that, I could do this, I could do that. That's how all fishing techniques are evolved. Thinking, learning, trying. We'll see you in the next one. I hope to get out fishing, but with winter on the way and that nasty naughty COVID business flying around, I'm not going to be queuing up for big crowds, that's for sure. It might be beach fishing. We'll see you then. However did she get that in there? Oh no. There's a fiver missing. I've had that at least 7 months.